The rooftop garden smelled like rain and rosemary. String lights buzzed overhead, and the city hummed 40 floors below like it had something to prove. Zara Ahmed stood at the edge, hands wrapped around a ceramic mug that had long gone cold. She wore an oversized forest green thrift store jacket, the sleeves swallowing her hands whole. Underneath, a faded black graphic tee tucked into high-waisted brown corduroy pants. White Air Force Ones, scuffed at the toe. Her locks were half pinned up, half falling wherever they wanted. She had paint under her nails and headphones around her neck and zero plans to talk to anyone tonight. This was her rooftop. Her building. Her 11 p.m. ritual. So when the door swung open and a stranger stepped out, she turned around ready to say exactly that. He was not what she expected. He wore a charcoal-fitted crewneck and straight-leg dark trousers, clean white sneakers that somehow looked expensive without trying. A silver chain sat at his collarbone. His jaw was sharp. His eyes were sharper. And he looked at her like she was the one trespassing. "This rooftop is residents only," she said. "I know." He didn't move. "I just moved into 14B. Zara stared. "That apartment has been empty for 2 years. "Not anymore." He stepped forward and looked out at the skyline. He didn't introduce himself. Didn't smile. Just stood there like the city owed him something. She should have gone back inside. She didn't. "You always show up to new places at 11 at night?" she asked. He turned his head slightly. "You always stand on rooftop edges holding cold coffee?" "How do you know it's cold?" "Because you've been holding it for 20 minutes. I could see you from my window." Zara blinked. "Okay, that's a little creepy. It's a little honest." He finally looked at her fully. "Run. My name is Ren Cho." "Zara." "I know," he said quietly. She froze. "Excuse me?" Ren pulled a folded paper from his pocket and held it out. It was a flyer. Her flyer. Hand-drawn, hand-lettered, advertising her underground art showcase happening in 3 weeks. "I came to this city because of this," he said. The string lights flickered. The wind picked up. Zara's heart did something it had no business doing. "Why?" she asked. Ren's expression cracked, just barely, just enough to see what was underneath it. "Because the artist who made this saved my life once. And I never got to say thank you." Zara did not breathe. Because the piece he was pointing to, the one at the center of the flyer, she had painted it the night her world fell apart. She had never shown it to anyone. She had uploaded one single photo to one obscure corner of the internet at 3 a.m. and then tried to forget it existed. "That piece was anonymous," she whispered. "I know," Ren said. "I found you anyway." The city roared below them. The lights flickered again. And Zara realized, with the kind of certainty that lives in the stomach, that everything was about to change. She just didn't know yet if it would save her or destroy her. 3 days later, Ren knocked on her studio door. Zara's studio was a converted laundry room on the ground floor that the landlord had basically forgotten existed. She had claimed it 2 years ago, patched the water-stained walls with canvas, and turned the industrial shelves into a catastrophe of spray cans, brushes, and sketchbooks. A single warm bulb hung from the ceiling. The floor was a graveyard of dried acrylic. She answered the door in paint-streaked wide-leg overalls, one strap undone, a yellow long sleeve underneath. Her locks were wrapped in a rust-colored headscarf. She had cerulean blue on her cheekbone from a brush that had gotten too enthusiastic. Ren stood in the hallway in a slate blue quarter-zip and dark joggers, hands in his pockets. He looked like he had not slept. "You look terrible," she said. "You have paint on your face." "I know. Why are you here?" He held up a coffee cup. "Her order." "Exactly. Oat milk, 1 sugar, a splash of vanilla, served from the tiny shop 3 blocks over that she had never mentioned to him. She stared at the cup. Then at him. "How did you know?" "I asked your neighbor, Ms. Rivera. She talks a lot." "That is either very sweet or very unhinged. Maybe both." He looked past her at the studio. His eyes landed on the walls, on the massive mural she was midway through painting. It was a figure standing in a storm, arms open, face tilted up, catching rain instead of running from it. Something shifted in his face. "My sister painted," he said. His voice dropped a full register. "Before she got sick. She used to say that art was just grief with better lighting." Zara went still. "Where is she now?" "Gone." The word landed like a stone dropped in still water. 8 months ago. Zara looked at the mural. At the figure in the storm. She had painted it the month after she lost her mother. "That is why you came," she said. Not a question. "I needed to be somewhere that made sense." He looked at her. "Your work makes sense to me." Zara should have kept her distance. She was good at distance. Distance was the whole reason she had a studio with no windows and a phone on permanent do not disturb. "Come in," she said instead. For 2 hours, they said nothing. She painted. He sat on an overturned bucket and watched, and somehow it was not weird. It was the most comfortable silence she had existed in since she could remember. Then he spoke. "I need to ask you something." She kept her brush moving. "Okay. My company is hosting an event. A real one. A launch for a mental health platform my sister and I designed together before she passed. 500 people. Curated experience. I need an artist to create a live installation at the event. Something that captures what it feels like to carry grief and still keep going." Zara's brush stopped. "You want me," she said slowly, "to perform grief. In front of 500 strangers. For a corporate event. Not perform it. Transform it." He leaned forward. "There is a difference." And the worst part was, she knew exactly what he meant. "How much time do I have?" 4 weeks. "And if I say no?" Ren looked at the mural. At the figure standing in the storm. "Then I find someone else," he said. "But they won't get it the way you do." Zara turned around. Looked at him fully. The shadows under his eyes. The way he held his hands clasped together like he was trying to keep himself from coming apart. 3 conditions, she said. "Name them." "I control the entire visual concept. No interference." "Done." "You show up to every planning session and actually talk to me. No assistant, no emails. You." He hesitated. Then, "Done. And you tell me about her. Your sister. I need to know who I am painting for." The room went quiet. The single bulb buzzed overhead. Ren's jaw worked for a moment. Then he nodded. "Her name was Lily," he said. "And she would have loved this terrible little room." Zara turned back to her mural. Her chest was doing something inconvenient. "Come back tomorrow," she said. "And bring better coffee." That cup was lukewarm. She did not see him smile. But she heard it in the way he exhaled. She was already in trouble. She just did not fully know it yet. Because what she did not know was that Ren Cho had not found her flyer by accident. And the truth, when it came, was going to hit like a wall. 2 weeks in, Zara had filled an entire sketchbook with concepts for the installation. 2 weeks in, Ren had shown up every single day. Not always for long. Sometimes just long enough to leave coffee, say 3 sentences, and go back upstairs. But he always came. Tonight he arrived later than usual, wearing a rumpled white tee and dark track pants like he had come straight from a sleepless work session. His silver chain was gone. He looked lighter somehow, and also more wrecked at the same time. Zara was on the floor surrounded by fabric swatches and string lights and about 40 printed photographs of storm clouds. She wore wide-leg black linen pants and a cropped lavender knit top, barefoot, her locks down and loose, brushing her shoulders. She had a marker tucked behind each ear. "You look like a mood board exploded on you," he said. "You look like you forgot to be a person today." She patted the floor next to her. "Sit." He sat. They looked at the chaos between them. "Talk to me about Lily," she said. "What was her favorite color?" "Yellow. Specifically the yellow of overripe bananas, which is objectively disgusting." Zara laughed. It surprised her, how easy it came. What did she want the platform to feel like? When someone opened it for the first time? Ren picked up a fabric swatch, turned it in his hands. She said she wanted it to feel like a friend texting back at 2 a.m. Not a hotline. Not a form. Just a friend. Zara grabbed her sketchbook and started drawing without thinking. Okay, I have it. The whole installation. It is going to be a room of hanging paper. Thousands of strips. And every strip has a message on it. Things people actually say to each other at 2 a.m. Real ones. Sad ones. Funny ones. The ones you only say when you are really not okay. Ren stared at what she was sketching. "Where do you get the messages?" "We crowdsource them. Anonymously. Anyone who has ever texted someone at 2 a.m. and meant it." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, she would have loved that. "I know," Zara said softly. And then, because the room was warm and the city was quiet and they had been sitting close enough to share the same air for 20 minutes, Ren looked at her in a way he had been carefully not looking at her for 2 weeks. "Why did you really say yes?" he asked. Zara put her sketchbook down. "Because I lost my mom 18 months ago and I have not made a single piece of art since that actually meant anything to me. Until the mural. Until you walked in and looked at it like you understood it. I did understand it. I know. That is the problem." The word landed between them like a match near a candle. "Zara," he said. "Don't," she said. But she did not move away. He reached over and took the marker from behind her ear, gently, and set it down. "I need to tell you something," he started. Her phone lit up across the room. She glanced at it. An unknown number. A message that read, "Ask Ren Cho who really sent you that flyer. Ask him who paid to have your work promoted. Ask him what he actually gets out of this." The warmth drained from the room. Zara looked at Ren. He had gone very still. "Ren." Her voice was flat. "Who sent me that flyer?" "What?" "I printed it. I distributed it myself. But before that night you said you found it online. On one obscure post. That post had 11 views. 11. She stood up. "So who sent it to you?" Ren got to his feet slowly. "It is not what it looks like." "Then explain it really fast." "My company's PR team found your work 6 months ago. They flagged you as a potential collaborator for the launch. I asked them to amplify that specific post." He exhaled. "I came to the rooftop that night because I knew you would be there. Ms. Rivera told me your routine. The studio felt very small. So you planned it," she said. "All of it. The coffee order. The rooftop. The whole I just moved in thing. The feelings were not planned. Run. I know how it sounds. It sounds like I was a target. You were never a target. You were the only person whose work made me feel like my sister was still in the room." His voice cracked. "I am sorry. I should have told you from the start." Zara looked at her mural. At the figure in the storm. "Get out," she said. Zara. I said get out. He left. The door clicked shut. She stood in her studio alone and did not cry. She just looked at everything she had built in 2 weeks and felt it shift into something unrecognizable. And then she looked at her phone again. At the unknown number. And something cold moved through her chest. Because she had seen that number before. It was in her mother's old phone records. It belonged to the lawyer who had mishandled her mother's estate. The one who had left Zara with nothing. Someone had not just exposed Ren. Someone had been watching her. And whatever game was being played, she was only just now realizing she was on the board. 4 days of silence. Zara spent them in the studio, finishing the installation pieces anyway. Not for Ren. Not for the event. For Lily. For her mother. For every person who had ever texted someone at 2 a.m. and needed to know the world was still turning. She wore her most battered outfit, paint-destroyed wide-leg jeans patched at both knees, a faded black band tee knotted at the waist, chunky white platform sneakers with loose laces. Her locks were tucked into a tan beanie even though it was not cold. She looked like someone who had decided comfort was the only currency left worth spending. On the 5th day, she tracked down the lawyer. His name was Marcus Vale. He worked out of a glass office in the financial district, wore suits that cost more than Zara's rent, and had tied up her mother's estate in legal knots for nearly 2 years, bleeding the account dry in fees while Zara worked 3 jobs to survive. But when she walked in and put her phone on his desk, showing him the message he had sent her about Ren, he smiled. And that smile told her everything. You tipped me off, she said slowly. Why? Because Ren Cho's company is about to go public, Marcus said. And if the artist behind his flagship launch pulls out citing ethical breaches in how she was recruited, the story kills the IPO. I have investors who would like that very much. You want me to blow up his launch? I want you to tell the truth. He leaned back. Which is that he manipulated you. He did manipulate me, she said. Then it should be easy. Zara picked her phone back up. Looked at this man who had stolen her mother's legacy and was now trying to use her grief as a weapon in a financial war she had nothing to do with. What do I get? She said. Not a question. A negotiation. Marcus opened a folder. Inside was a check. Enough to cover everything. The estate fees. 2 years of losses. And then some. Zara looked at the check for a long time. Then she took a photo of it. Of him. Of the folder. Of everything. Yeah, she said. I am going to tell the truth. She walked out. She went back to the building. Knocked on Ren's door. He answered in a gray hoodie and navy sweats, barefoot, looking like he had barely moved in days. His eyes went wide when he saw her. Zara. I need 10 minutes, she said. And then you can decide what to do with what I tell you. She told him everything. The message. Marcus Vale. The check. The IPO. All of it. Ren sat down on his couch like someone had taken the bones out of his legs. He is one of our early investors, Ren said quietly. He has been trying to force us to sell the platform to a larger health corporation. We refused. So he is burning the whole thing down. By burning me, Zara said. Are you going to let him? Zara sat down across from him. Looked at this person who had lied to her and also looked at her art like it was water in a drought. Both things were true. That was the mess of it. I turned down the check, she said. And I am going to finish the installation. Ren stared at her. Zara, you don't owe me anything. I know. She looked at her hands. I am doing it for Lily. And for my mom. Not for you. Okay, he said softly. But you have to do something for me. Name it. Go public first. Before the event. Tell the story yourself. How you found me, how you handled it wrong, all of it. Own it completely. If the truth is already out there, Marcus has nothing to sell. Ren went quiet for a long moment. Going public with the full story meant exposing his own mistake at the worst possible time. It meant the narrative would be messy and uncertain. It meant trusting people with his grief before the platform even launched. If I do that, he said, the IPO might still tank. It might, she agreed. This company is the last thing my sister and I built together. I know. He looked at her like she was asking him to step off a roof. She looked back like she believed he could land. Okay, he said. Okay. He posted the statement that night. Raw, unscripted, in his own words. He talked about Lily. About his mistake with Zara. About why the platform existed and what it had cost him to build it. He did not make himself look good. He just made himself look human. By morning, it had 500,000 views. And Marcus Vale's name was all over the replies. The event was in 48 hours. And Zara had one more thing she had not told Ren yet. One thing she had sacrificed in the photo she had taken in Marcus's office, the one she had quietly sent to a journalist friend before she even left the building. Her anonymity. The anonymous artist behind the installation was about to become very public. And everything she had built her life around protecting, her quiet, her distance, her invisible corner of the world, was gone. She stood on the rooftop that night. Cold coffee in hand. Wind in her locks. And she thought about the figure in the storm. Arms open. Face up. She had painted that figure from memory. She had forgotten it was always supposed to be her. The night of the event, the venue smelled like cedar and warm light. 500 people moved through a room filled with paper. Thousands of strips, floor to ceiling, hanging like the softest rainfall anyone had ever stood inside. Each strip held a message. Handwritten fonts, printed words, some in other languages, all of them real. All of them true. I texted you at 2 a.m. because you are the only one who makes 3 a.m. feel survivable. I don't know how to say I'm not okay, so I'm saying it like this. She's gone and I still save things to show her. I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still here. People walked through and went quiet. Some reached out and touched the strips. Some just stood still and let the room hold them. In the center of the installation, Zara's mural had been reprinted floor to ceiling. The figure in the storm. Arms open. Face up. Zara stood at the edge of the room in a long black slip dress layered over a white long sleeve, chunky black boots, her locks pinned loosely at the back of her neck with 2 gold clips. She looked like she belonged somewhere between a gallery and a late-night conversation that changes your life. She was terrified. The article had run that morning. Her name was out. Her face was out. Her story, the mother, the grief, the 2 years of invisible work, all of it, out. Her phone had not stopped since 7 a.m. But she was still standing. Which felt like something. Ren found her by the mural. He wore a black blazer over a simple white tee, slim dark trousers, the silver chain back at his collarbone. His eyes were clearer than she had ever seen them. Still tired. But clear. The room, he said. He could not finish the sentence. I know, she said. They stood next to each other in silence for a moment, surrounded by hundreds of paper voices saying all the things people never managed to say out loud. How are you doing? He asked. Actually. Zara thought about it. I feel like I just jumped off a building and I have not hit the ground yet. How does that feel? Faster than I expected. She looked at him. You? Same. He paused. I owe you a real apology. Not a statement. Not a post. A real one. Run. I am serious. I found your work and instead of just walking up to you like a normal person, I engineered a moment. Because I was scared that if I came to you as just some grieving guy who needed to feel something, you would say no. I probably would have, she admitted. I know. He looked at the mural. But you deserved the choice. Zara was quiet for a moment. The paper strips swayed gently around them. My mom used to say that grief is just love with nowhere to go, she said. I never knew what to do with that. Until I started painting again. Until this. Lily said something like that once. His voice was rough at the edges. She said people do not need to be fixed. They need to be witnessed. Zara looked up at the figure in the storm. That is what this room is, she said. Yeah. He turned to look at her. Not at the art. At her. Zara. For what it's worth. Every single day I showed up to your studio. The coffee. The conversations. None of that was strategy. That was just me not wanting to be anywhere else. She looked at him for a long moment. I know, she said finally. That is the thing that made me the most angry about it. Something in his expression opened up, cautious and honest and hoping. What happens now? He asked. Zara looked around the room. At the paper rain. At hundreds of strangers letting themselves be seen inside an installation she had built out of her own broken places. Now, she said, I think we figure it out like non-chaotic people. Which means slowly. And with full sentences. And no more coordinating with Ms. Rivera. Ren laughed. It was the first real laugh she had ever heard from him. It changed his whole face. Agreed, he said. Full sentences only. She handed him her cold coffee cup. He took it without question and actually took a sip, then made a face. This is terrible, he said. It is always cold by the time I drink it. I forget about it when I am thinking. What were you thinking about tonight? Zara looked at the figure in the storm one last time. Arms open. Face up. Catching rain instead of running. That I spent 2 years trying to disappear, she said. And somehow I ended up here. In a room full of people. And it does not feel like the worst thing that has ever happened to me. Ren was quiet. Then, it doesn't feel like the worst thing that has ever happened to me either. The paper strips swayed. Someone across the room laughed softly at a message they had found. Someone else pressed their hand to their chest. The city hummed 40 floors below like it had something to prove. And Zara Ahmed, who had built her whole life around being invisible, stood in the center of the loudest room she had ever made. And stayed. The end.